You're not gonna make it. No, you ain't gonna make it. You're not gonna make it, but you can. Welcome to You're Not Gonna Make It, the show where I discuss threats that may prevent you from making it. I'm Kevin. You know what the biggest pyramid scheme of all time is? The food pyramid. Probably. Now, some of you might be too young to know what the food pyramid is because it was apparently replaced by something called MyPlate in 2010. But when it was introduced in 1992, the year I was born, so it's as old as I am, it was kind of a big deal. In schools, I want to say this is probably the only nutrition education we got. They gave us like a printout of the food pyramid and we just looked at that. Now, if you didn't know, or maybe if you're not American, let me very briefly go over what the food pyramid is. It's a diagram of a pyramid. At the bottom, there's a base of bread, cereal, rice, and pasta. Basically, certain kind of carbohydrate there. 6 to 11 servings, quite a lot. Then the next level, you have a vegetable group, 3 to 5 servings. A fruit group, 2 to 4 servings. And on top of that, you have 2 more blocks. Milk, yogurt, and cheese group, 2 to 3 servings. Then meat, poultry, fish, dry beans, eggs, and nuts group, 2 to 3 servings. At the very top of the pyramid, you have fats, oils, and sweets. Use sparingly is what they say. This is weird and fucked up. The whole ratio of everything. There's a reason for that. Does the reasoning relate to lobbying and money? Yes. Now, the macronutrient split in terms of carbohydrates, proteins, and fats in the pyramid is out of whack. It's high in carbohydrates. Now, having a lot of carbs is not bad at all. In fact, having half of your intake or, a bit below that be fully carbohydrates is totally fine. It's great, actually, for energy. But the food pyramid has that as a gigantic base. You need the other stuff. And it also had this moderate in protein. I think it's probably fine what they're saying there. Maybe even a little more would be maybe helpful. And this is maybe the worst one. The food pyramid is very low in fats. It says use fats and oils sparingly. Now, obviously, in terms of the macronutrients, carbs and proteins, they have 4 calories per gram. Fats have 9 calories per gram. So they're doubly calorie dense. So if you're not careful, it could be bad. You can get fat kind of easily. But in terms of health, they can be really great, especially for satiety, to make you less hungry so you don't eat more and become fat in that way. So to have them be up top in the place where it says use sparingly is fucking weird, especially with oils, which, a lot of oils, like I said, have the same issue with fat. A little bit is very calorie dense and things can go awry pretty easily. But, one of the healthiest things ever is like olive oil. Coconut oil is pretty cool. Avocado oil is kind of cool. So to say use sparingly, I really doubt they're talking about portion size here. I think they're just talking, they say, try to avoid it. This is in the same level as fucking candy. That's absurd. Ideally, for macronutrients, this may differ depending on if you're an athlete, you're an average person, whatever you're trying to accomplish physically with your body can change. But ideally, carbohydrates, 40 to 50%, so a half or a bit less. I'd aim for a bit less so you can get more protein in, which should be 20 to 30% of your calories. I'd aim for 35 to be honest, but whatever. Getting enough protein these days is hard enough, to be quite honest with you, without taking shakes. And then you got fats, which should be, I want to say it depends on your goals, obviously, but maybe like 15, 20 to 30%. Those are kind of low and high ends, but, But the fat's got to be good, coming from nuts and some of the oils I mentioned. They're coming from, I don't know, fucking cheese or something. It's probably not amazing for nutrition. So there's that. Now, the whole point of this food pyramid was to teach, probably indoctrinate children into buying and preferring certain food groups over others. Because if everyone in the world loves certain carbohydrates, because a lot of people don't know this, but vegetables are carbs. So when people say carbs are bad, that is doubly, triply stupid. But on the food pyramid, the carbs that are at the bottom there, how shall I say this? They're carbohydrates that don't fill you that much. So me, conspiracy theory time. They want to say to kids, hey, these are the type of carbohydrates you should eat most of. It should be your base, the base of your diet. Then a lot of people would be like, yeah, man, you got to eat a lot of stuff that doesn't fill you. Got to eat more. Got to eat fast. Then it could encourage a generation of people who love eating stuff that doesn't fill you. It's almost like they succeeded. But anyway, one thing I really don't like about the food pyramid is that it gives fats a bad name. And honestly, fats already have a bad name. I wish they would be called something else, because we have the same fucking word for a macronutrient, which we should be calling, lipids or lipo something else. That's the same word as the state of having too much weight on your body. So when people talk about 1/3 of the nutrients that we need, and a lot of people in their minds are thinking, oh, bad. Yeah. It's fucked up. It's completely fucked up. And that's still around to this day. People keep thinking, oh, it's fat. No. If I eat that, I will be fat. That's not how that works. I really wish they would call it something else, but it's too fucking late. That's why we have to call the good stuff healthy fats, because it's just completely fucked. We don't say healthy proteins, right? Anyway, these healthy fats are great. They come from nuts and some oils and stuff like that. The thing about fats that's great is that if you get them from a good source, they fill you up a lot. Very satiating. Similar thing for protein as well. They don't fill you up as much as fats do. Not density-wise, but, if protein has fewer calories than fat, so you can, I guess, eat more of that protein to fill you up more. So maybe, but on a density level, yeah, fats fill you up more. So the fact that fats are pushed all the way to the top as to use sparingly is just fucked up. It just adds to it. The fact that it's in the same place as like the sweets and stuff like that, it makes it more ingrained in people's minds that, oh yeah, fats, that means bad and fat, and you'll be fat. It's like candy, you'll just be fat. It's just misinformation all around. And honestly, I have no idea what the nutrition education was like in this country before the food pyramid. I'm assuming it was very basic, don't eat candy, eat meat, whatever. I don't know. Some basic shit probably. But from 1992 onward, this is what people, kids and their parents thought of nutrition. So it really skewed a lot of people's perception of what nutrition should be. And of course, this came from some lobbying, some influence from elsewhere. Of course, meat producers. I don't know why they call meat producers here. Meat distributors, maybe? I mean, just because you have a farm, do you produce the meat? They're talking about producing in terms of like managing the finance and distribution. I don't know. Anyway, meat producers, they pressured the USDA to change the meat dietary advice from decreased consumption of meat, which was the case in the 70s, to have 2 or 3 daily servings in later versions of this advice. Now, if you get meat from a farmer's market, maybe chicken or something, that's kind of okay, I think. Don't quote me on that. But even in better countries in the US, in terms of nutrition, having a shit ton of red meat is not great because of all the saturated fat. So when people hear, I need to eat more meat, and they go straight to steak, that might not be ideal. So I think overall, maybe decreased consumption of meats a bit would probably be cool, because most people are eating fucking pork and steak, which pork is like I might do a feature episode on just pork in general. Pork is like the lowest form of meat, in my opinion. I'm not saying it can't be good, right? But in terms of like nutrition, it's really fatty and salty. At least in America. I'll say when I went to Japan, I had ramen with, little pork in there, chashu pork. I don't know if chashu means pork, actually. But anyway, I had pork in the ramen, and I'm like, this is fucking incredible. This is awesome. Again, I'm not a big pork guy, but, in a different country, I want to try out what they have. In Italy, we tried bacon, and it really confused me because it tasted good. Not like in America where it's kind of like salty cardboard or whatever the fuck it is, salty, greasy cardboard. In Italy, the bacon was like, it was good. It tasted like actual meat. It was crazy. It tastes like a different animal entirely. And yes, I'm such a big fucking hater of American nutrition that I don't eat like half of what people eat over here. But in other countries, it's fine because their food is less fuck with. So yeah, but even with all that, still, lowering the red meat consumption wouldn't be bad necessarily. Just saying. So that had a hand in the food pyramid construction. And of course, dairy. Gotta mention dairy. The MVP of fucking with the food advice. A lot of dairy industry groups, they lobbied, which means they paid people who can change these rules, for the inclusion of dairy as a completely separate food product, which is fucking weird. Just because something contains some kind of milk I don't think it should be a separate food product entirely, but whatever. And actually, before 1992, there was another kind of trial, I don't know what you call it, prototype pyramid kind of thing that existed. It's called the Eating Right Pyramid, but the USDA had to walk it back because they got pressure from meat and dairy producers about what they said on there. And they made the changes that I mentioned previously. So that's pretty cool. But like I mentioned, now we have MyPlate, which is, I guess, better, but I don't know by how much. I'll try to describe it to you. About half the plate diagram is vegetables and fruits, fruit being a bit smaller on that half, and the other half is grains and protein being a bit smaller on that half. And you gotta have dairy. So dairy is a side thing, off to the side, its own category. I don't see any mention of anything that could contain fat besides the dairy, which, like I said, if you're getting all your fat from dairy, you're gonna fucking die. No nuts or anything, like lentil, whatever the hell that food group is called. Anyway, it's cool they increased the vegetable stuff, I guess. Most people don't get enough of that. Cool, they don't even mention sweets. It's nice. I still wouldn't really take this as guidance for you or your child's nutrition, TBH. What I would recommend is to ignore all that shit entirely. I mean, I'm going to sound like a probably broken record. You've probably heard a lot of this before, but try to focus on whole foods when you can. Reduce the processed foods. Now, ideally reduce ultra processed foods. Just because the food is processed in general doesn't necessarily make it bad. My fucking protein shakes are technically processed, but, that's fine, I think. I mean, rule of thumb is if it kind of looks like sludge, it's probably not ideal. If it has 30 ingredients, it's probably not ideal. So I would just try to look into nutrition as a whole and try to eat foods that have the least amount of ingredients if you can. Just like the food, if you can eat a food as what it is, that'd be good. Like instead of buying, this mashed potato pack at the supermarket, it contains potatoes, butter, 20 other ingredients, whatever, right? A lot of extra salt. Why don't you just go straight to the potato level and just kind of work with that? You know what I mean? That's what I mean by whole food stuff, if possible. Because the closer you get to the actual main thing, the less chance of extra bullshit that you don't need being in there. And again, sometimes these extra things in some of these foods are not necessarily bad. It's more like, why does it have to be there? Oftentimes it doesn't really need to be there, so you can just kind of do without. Let's try to do that. Get enough protein to be full. Get enough fats to be full. Like I was saying, nuts, some seeds, avocados, olive oil. I've come around to avocados. I used to dislike them, but when I went to Italy, I tried avocados and I'm like, oh, wow, they actually do have flavor. What a surprise. So it looks like it's just American avocados that lack a lot of flavor. That was disappointing and eye-opening for me at the same time. So now I know what they're capable of. I know the potential of avocados. So now I eat them a bit. And honestly, if you use them to supplement certain food, like this might sound weird, but literally if you put some avocado in pasta, not as a sauce, like that's a smart, cool way to do it. I'm saying like literally put pieces of avocado on your pasta and just like kind of like smush it as you're eating. It's awesome. It adds really nice texture to it. bit thicker than it would be if it were a sauce. But anyway, avocados are cool. Great source of fats. I'm saying this because fats are missing from the My Plate and they are stigmatized on the food pyramid. So it's letting you know. Yeah, just honestly follow that macronutrient split, like I said. Honestly, a pretty decent one for most people. I know you don't want to do math while you're here, but like 45% carbs, 35% protein, and 20% fats, that would be great for most people, honestly. Don't stress the numbers way too much, but just, have some kind of balance with the macronutrients. I wouldn't cut out any one of them for any reason unless you may die if you don't for some reason. But as per usual, make sure you look things up, double check things before you make life changes. And make sure those changes are small so you can adjust going forward. I really can't fucking believe they put fats in the same category as sweets. Holy fuck, man. They're literally saying shit like nuts and avocados are the same as fucking lollipops, man. What is wrong with this country's food system? Anyway, in the comments, leave me your favorite pyramid scheme. Oh, real quick story about a pyramid scheme. I think this might have been 10 years ago or something. When I still lived in New York. I had I had a date or something with an older woman. We met up and I was like, cool. Right. And then she brought me and her friend like, I don't know, like a 40-minute drive away to some event. I'm like, oh, I wonder what's going to happen here. This seems not the way I thought it was going to go. And went to a presentation with a lot of other people about a pyramid scheme. And I was fucking furious because I think this was right before I got my driver's license. I got mine in my early 20s because in New York, you don't really need one. Lower New York, you can just take buses and trains everywhere. So I basically had to stay there for, I don't know how long, 2-3 hours. I had no way of getting home because it was a 40-something minute drive, which means walking is fucking impossible. And I'm not like in danger. I'm just going to be bored as shit and annoyed the whole time. So it's like, fuck. Oh man, that was annoying. I was fucking furious. Oh man. Anyway, I never saw her again. So now with the shit I said on the car ride back home, holy fuck. Anyway, if you ever fell for one of those things or got roped into one of those things, let me know. I'm curious. Write in the comments. Anyway, eat well. See you next time.